Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. Before I get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about the Company Officer Development Institute program that I created. I sent out a message on my social media about this, and I got a lot of interest that came back to me, and a few puzzled responses too. You see, it's a 5-day, no PowerPoint, no book program designed to help company officers with the skills needed to be successful at the company level. I guess the puzzled responses had to relate to the no PowerPoint part. How can you teach 5 days with no PowerPoint? Well, my co-facilitator, Indianapolis Fire Lieutenant Patrick Harper, and myself have developed a program to share best practices for leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution, teamwork, motivation, generational leadership, discipline, coaching for performance improvement, and more. The program truly is customized to the issues being faced by those who are in the program. That's one of the reasons we don't use PowerPoint. We never know exactly what the content is going to be of the class until we get started. And the second reason we don't use PowerPoint is, well, frankly, we believe that it's not necessary to use PowerPoint to teach leadership. It's better accomplished using adult-facilitated learning techniques. It's always amazing, somewhat amusing even to me, when we announce on Monday at the start of the class that we're not going to use PowerPoint for the week. And the look of confusion and bewilderment is predictable. Then, by Friday, the comments that often come in is, "Where did this week go? It seemed like we just started." Yes. When adults are engaged in the process of learning and not just being lectured to, learning can be fun. And it sticks. And that's the important part. When I'm talking to a chief officer about why they might want to host this program, I explain it this way. We're going to teach your company officers the skills they need to keep the problems out of your office. How to prevent and resolve problems at their level, the company level, and not let them get to your level, the chief's level. In August, we completed our 29th offering of the week-long version of the Company Officer Development Institute. Now, we do offer shorter versions, too, for departments that can't dedicate a full week to it. And we also have a weekend version for volunteer departments. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, have your chief or training officer visit my website, samatters.com, and click on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage, and we'll get something set up. Yep, it really is that easy. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Instructor John Dixon, and you are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 127 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple, to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Madison, Wisconsin. Yesterday I did a situational awareness program for the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Education Association in La Crosse. And today I'm in Madison doing a ride-along with my son, Cameron, at Station 7. You'll see here shortly why this ride-along inspired today's podcast topic. I made a mention in previous episodes that I'll soon be rolling out the newly updated version of the Situational Awareness Matters online Academy. This is the second version of the Academy, so it's called Academy 2.0. The first version was good, but this version's even better. Instead of modules, there's going to be mini courses and they'll be much more manageable, each about 30 minutes to some of them might take an hour or two to complete. Department training officers will be able to track participation. There will be quizzes along the way to verify knowledge is actually being transferred to the learner. It's very cool. I'm really happy with it. I know there are lots of departments that cannot, for one reason or another, host a live Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event. The Academy will make it affordable for your department to get this valuable life-saving content taught by me. Your personnel will be able to take the classes in bite-sized increments, and the whole organization can become proficient on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. Now you're probably wondering, when is it going to come out, right? Well, not until December or January, I'm guessing. And the reason it's going to take so long is I have hired professional curriculum developers to ensure the academy is robust and teaching things the right way, asking questions the right way, that kind of stuff. I'm going to do some discounted pre-sales. So if you're looking to get in from the start, just keep listening here, watch my website, watch the weekly newsletter, and those announcements should be coming out, I'm guessing, October or November. And speaking of the newsletter, some of you know that started in September, I transferred the monthly newsletter to a weekly newsletter. Much shorter, much easier to get through. The monthly newsletter contained a lot of material, and it was taking readers a long time to get through, if some got through it completely at all. And so now it's going to be a weekly newsletter, and I'm guessing it'll take, 3 to 5 minutes, maybe, to get through. At least that's my goal. So if you're interested in signing up for the newsletter, go to the SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage, and you'll get that weekly. Basically what it does is summarize that week's blog article, that week's podcast episode, and might have a few other tidbits of information, but not a lot of reading like the old newsletter had. I get asked all the time, when are you coming to my area? I want to attend a program. Or where's the next time you're going to be here or there? And it's real easy to find that out because I post my schedule of upcoming events on the SA Matters website homepage. Just click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage, the blue one that says Upcoming Events Schedule. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop in 2016 or in 2017 for your department or association or region, just contact me through the SA Matters website, Contact Us link, and we'll get something set up for you. Don't wait, because I'm actively booking the 2017 programs now. And to be fair, so there's no surprises, I'm announcing that I'm capping the number of programs I'm doing in 2017, something that I haven't done previously, just to spend a little bit more time with my family. I haven't done a good job with that in the past, and I want to do better. However, as demand has increased, I've added my first master instructor, who will also be available to teach the situational awareness programs as the demand picks up and as I cut back a little bit. No, I'm not retiring, so I can just squelch that one right here. I'm just trying to keep my sanity, and this is one way to do it. Anyhow, if you want to book me, personally, now's the time to get me on your schedule. Just swing by the SA Matters website and click on the Contact Us link. If you want to save some money, here's a tip for how you can host a program at a reduced cost. I schedule many what I call companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm going to be delivering a program within a few hours of where your department is, and you think you might want to come along as a companion, contact me. You can save as much as 20% off the program cost by being a companion to an existing program. I do, about 30 or so companion programs each year. And no one ever complains about saving money on travel expenses. Imagine that. That's what I call a win-win. Okay, in today's feature segment, I'm going to discuss the challenges of getting responders to speak up when they see something going wrong. I'm going to jump right into the feature segment now, but when I come back, stick around, or when I'm done, stick around. I'm going to announce where the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events are. Okay, let's jump into the feature segment about speaking up. If you see something, say something. This is a conversation that I often have during my classes where I talk with first responders about the process, about how to speak up if they feel that their safety is in danger after being given an order by their company officer or by the incident commander. I'm talking about a situation where the conditions are so deteriorated, so potentially grave, that a responder should speak up, express their concern, and in a polite way, let the person who gave the order know that if they complete the order, that there could be a tragic consequence. We have this conversation often during classes because I show videos of incidents where things are degrading and the responders are just continuing to go into places that they shouldn't go, or be places they shouldn't be, doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I ask, why do you think this is? And some say, well, maybe they were just following orders. And then that opens up the conversation of, well, at what point should you raise a question about an order? You know, there are smart company officers and smart incident commanders out there, but that doesn't mean they're flawless, that they're perfect in their ability to assess everything and to be able to make decisions that are 100% of the time right for the conditions. A few years ago, I was doing a program, a 2-day program for wildland firefighters. And on day 1, I had the bosses. And on day 2, I was going to have the hand crews, the basically the ones who do the heavy lifting at the wildland incidents, that are actually on the line, doing the digging and the cutting and the scraping and the extinguishing of the fire. So day 1, the bosses. Day 2, the hand crews. And in day 1, I was having a conversation with the bosses about this need to speak up, or teach responders how to speak up. And one of the bosses raised his hand and he said, "You can go on to the next slide. We've got that down. We know how to do that. We do that all the time. Let's not belabor that point, because we got that worked out. We're telling our hand crews all the time, if you see something, you speak up." And so I just went on to the next slide and carried the lessons on from there. But it got me wondering: is that the truth? How does that equate into the real world? Well, as fate would have it, the next day I was going to have those very hand crews in the class that the bosses were talking about the previous day. So the next day in class, as we spun around to this conversation, I asked the hand crew people in the room, and there were about 70 or so of them. I said, how many of you have been told that if you see something that's a concern, that you should speak up? And I'm going to guess just about every hand went up. I mean, I didn't do a count, but the hands went up, and it was obvious to me that they had been taught that lesson, just as I had been educated the day before from the bosses. And I said, "Okay, put your hands down." And I said, "Now, how many of you would actually speak up if one of the bosses was making an error in their judgment or their decision making?" And about 4 or 5 hands went up out of the 70 that all raised their hands, that said they were told to speak up. A very small percentage actually raised their hands. And I found that interesting, but in my perspective, maybe also somewhat predictable. And then I said, "Okay, put your hands down." And then one raised his hand again, and he said, "I want to clarify." He said, "Whether I would speak up or not depends on which boss it is." And I think it took a lot of courage for this person to make that admission, that there are some bosses that are easier to speak up to and some bosses that are harder to speak up to. And that was a really valuable point that he made, is I would speak up, but there are bosses out there that I would not speak up to because they would not appreciate me coming and questioning the order that they had given to me. And then I asked them, raise your hand if you've ever practiced speaking up. Like in a training session, after the boss has told you, if you see something, speak up. How many of you have ever actually gone through an exercise where you've practiced speaking up to the bosses? None of the hands went up. And there was the telltale for me as to what was going on. It's one thing to say to speak up. It's a whole other thing to actually speak up. It's one thing to put words to it and in the instructions, and it's another thing to actually take the action of speaking up. And it's a lot harder to actually do it than it is to say to do it. So in my programs, one of the things that I do when I'm having a conversation with the firefighters about speaking up, I will show a video of something that's going wrong, and firefighters are where they perhaps should not be doing what they should not be doing. And I'll ask the class, should they be there? Consensus, no. Maybe they were just ordered to be there. And then somebody will say, well, if they were ordered to be there, they should speak up. And then I kind of prepare for this portion of my program with some discussions earlier in the day, and what I do is I try to find a firefighter who I know has a chief officer from their department in the room, and I'll ask that firefighter, would you speak up? If you were in this situation, like you're seeing in the video, would you speak up and raise the concern to your officer? Some of them say no, I wouldn't speak up. I'll do what I'm told to do, which is very telling, because that's probably a very truthful response by the firefighters who say that. And you can see some stunned looks in the rooms as people realize, good Lord, they wouldn't speak up. I mean, look at the grave situation these firefighters are in. You wouldn't speak up, and they won't. And then sometimes I'll get some that'll say, yeah, I'd speak up. Absolutely, I'd speak up. And then I say, okay, stand up. And then I'll point out the chief officer, chief, stand up. And I'll tell the firefighter, now go over to the chief officer and tell him you're concerned about their order. That you've been ordered to do what you see going on in this video, and you don't think that that's a safe thing to do. So just go over there and have the face-to-face, eye-to-eye discussion about this. Oh my gosh, you can just see the anxiety in the face of the firefighter who's going to have to go over and have that conversation with their superior officer. And sometimes the superior officer gives a little bit of pushback, which then makes the conversation even go more interesting. And then I'll ask the firefighter, how did that feel? And they're like, that was terrible. I mean, I'd never done anything like that before. And there lays the point, is that if you're not comfortable with speaking up, you're probably going to shut up and not say anything. You might say you'd speak up, but would you actually? We spend a lot of time teaching new firefighters to shut up and listen, and shut up and listen in the academy, shut up and listen, and there's some wisdom to that. But at some point in their career, somebody needs to teach them how to stand up and have a voice that could save lives, save their own life, save the life of someone else, help the person who gave the order keep from having to be the responsible person for someone getting killed. All right, so I told you this would come around to the ride along with my son. So when I was in Madison, I did an experiment. And here's how, let me lay it out for you how it went. So it started with a conversation with Lieutenant Mason, who is the officer on the engine that my son was riding on that day, or today. And I had a conversation with him in the morning, and he was saying, we need to make sure that when that when people see things, they speak up. And we were just in general having this conversation, and I agreed with him. And he said, he tells his folks to speak up when they have concerns. And this conversation was going on. And I said, well, would they speak up? And he said, well, I hope they would. I tell them enough to speak up. And so, the conversation went on to something else. And then a little bit later in the day, they were going to they had a roof prop set up behind the station, and they were going to do some vertical ventilation evolutions. So they got the prop all set up to do the evolution, and they got in the truck and pulled the truck around, and as the officer, he got off and then told the 2 firefighters, what he wanted done as far as the vertical vent, and they set the ladder and went up with the saw and cut the hole, and the evolution went fine. I mean, the lieutenant did some teaching and coaching with them on saw technique and things like that. It was solid drill. And then I had a conversation with the lieutenant and said, would you mind if I interceded a little situation awareness lesson into the next evolution? And he said, what do you got in mind? And I told him I'd like to get these firefighters to speak up and tell you they think that going to the roof is a bad idea, that they've got some concerns about the condition of the roof, kind of like what we talked about earlier in the day. And he lit up, smiled, and he said, yeah, let's do it. And so that's what we did. When the next time for the second evolution, the lieutenant got off the engine. He did the 360 around the prop. The firefighters, including my son, were getting the roof ladder set up on the roof, and the saw started and getting ready to go. And I pulled the 2 firefighters aside. I said, "Come over here!" And they're looking at me like, "What? What are you doing? We're in the middle of a practice evolution here. You shouldn't be interfering." Of course, the lieutenant was in on it, so he knew. So I pull the 2 firefighters over, and while I have the 2 firefighters pulled over, the lieutenant is saying, "Come on, let's go. We got to get this vetted," which is causing even more anxiety in the faces of these firefighters, because they know the lieutenant is anxious to get this roof hole cut. And the question I asked him, I said, "What would the conditions be like for you to be so concerned that you wouldn't want to go to that roof? What would those conditions be like?" And they said, well, there'd be fire coming out of the eaves, maybe fire coming out of the peak. The roof is sagging. I said, so if you had those conditions, you wouldn't go to the roof? No, we wouldn't go to the roof. And I said, okay, those are the conditions. Now you need to go and convince the lieutenant that you shouldn't go to the roof. What I saw through those SCBA face pieces is something between concern and terror in the faces of those firefighters, because they now had to go to that lieutenant who was barking at him, "Come on, let's go. We got to get this hole cut." And go and convince him that going to that roof was a bad idea. Now imagine that. That's not what we do. Speak up to an officer. But the roof was sagging. The fire was through the roof, and for whatever reason, the lieutenant couldn't see it. Or if he could see it, he wasn't comprehending it. Or if he was comprehending it, he was so consumed by adrenaline that he was going to ignore those critical clues. Now, remember, in this evolution, the lieutenant's on board with this. He knows what we're doing. He's playing a role here. He's acting as though this roof hole needs to be cut at all costs. All costs. At all costs. Meaning, if those firefighters go to that roof, they're going through it. We see this happening in the fire service, don't we? If they make an entry, they're gonna get caught in a flashover. If they make an entry, they're gonna get caught in a collapse. They're gonna fall through to the basement. We see this, don't we? So, if someone sees it, should they speak up? How do they speak up? What's the process for speaking up? So after these young firefighters spoke up, and we stopped the evolution, they took their face pieces off, the lieutenant was smiling because he saw what just happened here, and he saw how hard it was for them to speak up. And he's the kind of lieutenant that has told these firefighters for a very long time, speak up, please speak up if you see something. And when they finally did practice speaking up, it was an uncomfortable moment. So then I asked my son, I said, how did that feel, speaking up? He said, I felt terrible. Terrible. He says, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to speak up. But you did. And that made all the difference. That speaking up probably saved a life, or maybe several, or saved you from going through the roof. And I'm betting the lieutenant appreciated that. And the lieutenant said, I did. But he was in. Again, he was in on it. So what's the takeaway from this? Practice speaking up. It's different than saying it. This is a discussion that can be held around the coffee table or in the classroom, where a officer would not only tell firefighters to speak up, but actually teach how to speak up, and then have the firefighters practice speaking up. Better yet, the officer might even demonstrate the behavior. In other words, the officer assumes the role of the firefighter and teaches the firefighters how to speak up, what to say, what not to say, how to say it, how not to be defensive, how not to be confrontational, and then have the firefighters practice it. When the firefighters then have to do it for real, they're only doing what they were taught to do, exactly how they were taught to do it. You might even consider having a code word or a code phrase that tips the officer up that there is a concern. You can look on my website and search out the article called 5-Step Assertive Statement Process. 5-Step Assertive Statement Process that teaches a process for how to speak up when there is a concern. You may also want to swing back and listen to podcast episode number 12, way back in the archives, because this is like number 127. Go back and listen to number 12 when I interview Buckley Fire Chief Alan Predmore, because I was in Buckley and I had a conversation with his firefighters about speaking up and the need to have a code phrase that indicates that there is a concern. And they came up with a code phrase. It's called "The Pigs Are Eating Lemons." I won't say anything more about it. If you want to understand what that means, go back and listen to episode 12. The point of all this, have a process, teach the process, and then practice the process of speaking up. It could save your life. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, contact me by visiting the SA Matters website and clicking on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near-miss event could save the life of other first responders. If you want to share your experience, it's easy to do, and I promise it'll be friendly, and you won't be interrogated. It'll be fun, just like two firefighters sitting at a coffee table having a conversation. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and organizations that have hosted some of the recent Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events. I do this to show my appreciation to those organizations who put forth the effort to organize, advertise, and fund great training experiences for their members and others in their region. Your efforts to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making is greatly appreciated. The Heartland Deerfield, Michigan Fire Department, the Arizona State Fire School in Mesa, Arizona, the Southwest Fire and EMS Chiefs Association Conference in Meridian, Idaho, the Upper Providence Township Fire Department in Pennsylvania, and yesterday the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Education Association Conference in La Crosse, Wisconsin. If you want to join me for an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event, then today, it's when this episode is going to air, which isn't today as I'm recording it, but it's the day that it will air. I will be in Cincinnati, Ohio, delivering a program for the International Association of Fire Chiefs Officer Development Program. I'll be doing a program on training for failure and flawed situational awareness. Then September 29th, I'll be at the Welcome Fire Department in Fairmont, Minnesota. September 30th, the Sioux Falls Fire Department in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a situational awareness roundtable program in the afternoon, followed by a keynote address for the recruit graduating class in the evening. Then onward to Howard, South Dakota, where October 1, I'll be doing a program for the Howard Fire Department. But I'm going to be off for 2 weeks doing some work on the new and upcoming academy. I'm so excited about the release of this program. I'm finally going to be able to have a way to share this content with everyone at an affordable price. So I'll be off the road for a couple of weeks there. Then October 17th, the Montana APCO Conference in Great Falls, Montana. October 19th, Firehouse Expo in Nashville. And October 28th, the North Dakota Hazmat Conference in Bismarck, North Dakota. Thanks so much to all the program hosts, and here's hoping there'll be a tour stop near you and we'll get a chance to meet up. The last time I was delivering situational awareness programs in southwest Minnesota, I stopped by and visited my sponsor for this podcast show, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire makes amazing all-poly fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. You seriously need to check them out at MidwestFire.com. Imagine the body of a fire truck being all poly. Now, you think of plastic as maybe being brittle. They shot a .38 caliber revolver at a piece of this material that the body's made out of. It didn't even penetrate it. .38 caliber revolver just ricocheted off of it. I saw it with my own eyes when I was there visiting. Anyhow, while I was there, I got a chance to sit down and talk to a few of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Let's listen in to learn what happens after the sale and the process of building a fire engine. All right, I've heard about the No Dealer Network. I've heard about how to get in contact with Midwest Fire. I've heard about the process of speccing a truck, and that's all good. What happens after the sale?
Currently, after the sale, everything gets turned over to myself as project manager. I will then lead you through the build process. If you call in, have questions on your truck, want to make changes to your truck, want updates on your truck, that will all filter through me then rather than the salesman at that time. We take pride in everything we do here. You've heard that many times. But what we want to focus on is making this the best experience we can for the fire department. It's not always easy to get a hold of your salesman, whether he's traveling or on the road or at shows where I'm in-house full-time. Have 100% control with the project manager as well as manufacturing manager of your truck going through the process.
So somebody calls you and they have a question, or they're saying, can we make this change or whatever. You literally just walk down the hall, out the door, and you're on the manufacturing floor talking with engineering or with the people who are actually building their truck, and you can do kind of real-time problem solving or adjusting on the specification?
Yep. What we do then, if there is changes to the truck, obviously there'd be a change order involved, but the response time is a lot quicker. Most of the departments we work with have a meeting once a month, the volunteer fire departments. So if they call in, have a meeting the next night, we're able to get an answer to them, a response to them right away, so we're not holding up the project while it's in production.
Super. Well, there you have it, folks. That's what differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors. So check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison, and all your staff for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I really, really appreciate your support of my mission and your sponsoring of this podcast show. If you're interested in seeing all the locations for upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops, head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the website that says Upcoming Events Schedule. Check back often because it's always changing. I want to share a piece of feedback I received. I don't share the feedback to brag, but rather just to show appreciation to those who are inspired by my message and take the time to send me some encouragement. So this one came from Bob Ratcliffe. And Bob is recently retired, and he is in Florida. He said, I just want to drop a note of encouragement to let you know that your dedication to firefighter safety is greatly appreciated. What you're doing is making a difference in the lives of more than you could ever count. I've been retired from the fire service almost a year, and have seemed to slip away a little bit from the habits of reading fire magazines and such. But your work is one of the things that I still look forward to every time it comes. I really like the new format of the weekly newsletters instead of the monthly issues as well. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that feedback a lot. I was wondering how people would take that. Thanks for all you do. Keep up the good work. You're filling God's calling on your life and helping others. Bob Ratcliffe in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Bob, for that. If you want to send me feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Just visit the SA Matters website, click on the Contact Us link. That sends me an email. All right, I have a big favor to ask of you. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while and you like it, help me out by going over to iTunes and give it a rating and a review. I need some mutual aid here. Seriously. Step up and help me out. It'll make me feel so good. If you rate the show, that'll help others to locate it, and it lets me know that you like what I'm doing here. If you want to give me some suggestions about how to improve the show, just shoot me an email. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, contact somebody you know and ask them to subscribe to the show. Thanks for the help. I really appreciate it. I can assure you, your reviews and comments inspire me to work harder for you. If you are a podcaster, you already know it takes a lot of time and effort to produce, record, edit a show, line up the guests, and your feedback really gives me some inspiration. Thanks. If you want to learn more about situational awareness beyond the podcast, I've written 5 books on the topic of situational awareness. Each contains critical lessons for improving your situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. You can check out all my books and videos in the store on the website, samatters.com, store link at the top. If you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners, there are several ways to get connected. First, you can join to be a member. There are about 5,000 members. Just click on the red box on the right side of the homepage, and I'll send you a free report. Membership is free, too. The free report, 25 best practices for improving first responder safety. If you join, you'll get that weekly email that I talked about earlier, summarizing blogs and podcasts, just to keep us connected. If you're not a member yet, easy to do. Red box on the right side of the homepage. If you want to get connected on social media, follow @Rich Gasaway or @SA Matters on Twitter. If you follow both, you're going to get all my tweets twice. So just follow one or the other. If you're getting all the tweets twice, that's why. You're following both Rich Gasaway and SA Matters. So just unfollow one of them and you'll only get those messages once. The SA Matters Twitter community between the two feeds are about 17,000. So thanks for all who support the mission there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well by searching Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. If you want to watch some videos, I have a YouTube channel, SA Matters TV on YouTube, with some videos there. Why so many platforms? The blog, the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, online academy, live events, books, videos. Why all of it? Because I know not every first responder consumes their content the same way on the same platform, and I'm trying to reach you on whatever platform you prefer most. Well, that's it. Episode 127 is complete. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all of our live event hosts. And thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really, really do appreciate your support of my mission. Be safe out there. And may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.